There are transmissions that clarify mysteries, transmissions that confirm theories, and then there are transmissions that shatter everything. Transmissions that force scientists' music to freeze mid-sentence, stare at the monitors in silence, and ask themselves if humanity has just crossed a line it was never meant to cross. Voyager 2, drifting alone through the deep vacuum, music for more than 46 years, has just sent one of those transmissions. What came through the Deep Space Network this time wasn't like the plasma hums, the solar echoes, or the interstellar shocks we've heard music before. This transmission carried patterns, structured, layered, rhythmic pulses buried inside the faintest music, whisper of radio energy traveling more than 12 billion miles through the void. And what's worse, this new signal, music, came after Voyager 2 lost contact for 7 months, after NASA realigned the antenna against impossible odds, and after every music instrument on board was pushed beyond its original lifespan. It came when music Voyager should have been silent. It came from a place where no spacecraft has ever remained stable. It came from music, a region where even the sun's influence collapses and the galaxy's true environment begins. And the tone of the music mission team says it all. Voyager 2 did not just send data. It sent something that feels like a warning, a whisper, music, or a message from deep space itself. Tonight, we travel from the launch of the twin probes to the moment this new transmission reached Earth. And we uncover why this one fragment of radio energy has left NASA terrified, fascinated, and unable to explain music, what Voyager 2 has truly encountered. Before we can understand the transmission, we must understand the origin of the machine that sent it. And that origin begins with an alignment so rare that it happens only once every 176 years. Back in 1965, when space exploration was still a dream more than a discipline, Gary Flandreau, a graduate student armed with nothing more than a pencil and music, an instinct for orbital mechanics, stumbled upon a cosmic configuration that would change human history. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, the 4 giants of our solar system, were slowly, music, drifting into a perfect gravitational staircase, a configuration that would allow a spacecraft, music, to leapfrog from one world to the next using their gravity like celestial slingshots. This alignment would compress what should have been music, a 30-year journey, into just 12. And when NASA realized what Flandreau Music had discovered, the agency pivoted its entire strategy and began quietly building 2 machines that would use this once-in-a-lifetime music corridor to escape the solar system entirely. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 were born from that cosmic window, built to ride gravity like a ladder and reach worlds no eyes had ever seen. But what no one understood at the time was that this alignment also placed the Voyager probes on trajectories that would push them, music, deep into the interstellar medium, into regions where the sun's influence collapses and only the galaxy's raw environment remains. The same alignment that made the grand music tour possible also made this transmission possible. Voyager 2 launched on August 20th, 1977. A modestly music-looking spacecraft wrapped in gold-colored insulation, powered by plutonium heat, and guided music by computers that today have less memory than a digital watch. And yet, it became one of the most accomplished explorers in human history. It survived Jupiter's radiation, music storms. It survived Saturn's rings. It survived the eerie, frozen deserts of Uranus. And it became music, the only spacecraft in history to visit Neptune, flying past its sapphire atmosphere and watching the great dark spots swirl beneath blue methane clouds. Along the way, it discovered new moons, rings, volcanoes, nitrogen geysers, extreme winds, and mysteries that astrophysicists still struggle to explain. And then, as its cameras were shut down, as its last images were stored on its aging tape recorder, Voyager 2 crossed the boundary, music, where the solar system ends, the heliopause, and entered interstellar space. Since then, it has relied on the Deep Space Network to whisper signals across a distance, so immense it takes 18 hours for Voyager's message to reach Earth. But the story doesn't end there. Because as Voyager 2 music drifted deeper, its power began to fade. NASA shut off heaters, switched off instruments, sacrificed non-critical systems one by one just to music keep the probe alive. Even so, in 2020, the spacecraft fell, music silent for 7 months, vanishing into the void. And when NASA finally restored music contact, Voyager 2 behaved in a way no one expected. Its data was inconsistent, its orientation inexplicably corrected, and then the first strange anomalies began to show up in its measurements. Anomalies that are now resurfacing in the new transmission. Voyager 2 didn't just music explore planets. It revealed entire worlds that rewrote science. When it reached Jupiter, music, it transmitted images of swirling storms and iridescent clouds larger than Earth itself. It watched lightning explode across Jovian nights, and its cameras caught Io erupting with volcanic fire, the first active volcanoes ever, music seen beyond Earth. These discoveries alone should have defined Voyager's legacy. But the probe wasn't done. At Saturn, it slipped through a gauntlet of icy particles, surviving impact from ring debris moving at thousands of miles per hour. It flew past Titan and detected an atmosphere thicker than Earth's, hinting at chemical mysteries scientists still debate today. Then came Uranus, the coldest and strangest music of the giants. Voyager 2 found rings, discovered 10 new moons, observed a tilted magnetic field, and glimpsed a world knocked sideways by ancient cosmic violence. After that came Neptune, with winds screaming at 1,000 miles per hour, storms the size of continents, and Triton, a frozen moon erupting nitrogen geysers 5 miles high. All of these encounters build a picture of a solar system alive with violence and music complexity. But they also taught NASA something else. The deeper you go, the stranger the physics becomes. And once Voyager 2 crossed the heliopause, everything the music spacecraft observed, plasma, magnetic fields, particle density, behaved in ways scientists were not prepared for. And now, decades later, those same regions seem, music, to be connected to the unexpected transmission. Before Voyager's cameras were shut down forever, Carl Sagan convinced NASA to turn Voyager 1 around and capture one last portrait. A mosaic of the inner, music, solar system seen from 3.8 billion miles away. One frame in that mosaic, music contained our entire world. A tiny speck suspended in a sunbeam so small it could be mistaken, music for dust. The pale blue dot, an image that changed philosophy, astronomy, and human identity. And after that moment, the Voyagers went dark. No more photographs, no more color, no more glimpses of worlds, only sensors, instruments, music, and radio signals. Data transmitted in binary across the silence of space. Voyager became blind, but did not become silent. It continued drifting outward, sending back reports of cosmic rays, magnetic fields, plasma density, and eventually the unmistakable signs of interstellar music space. But as the years passed, those reports became more difficult, music to interpret. Instruments weakened, tape capacity shrank, errors increased. Manuals written in the 1970s, music became the only lifeline for the mission team. And then, after nearly half a century, music of travel, Voyager 2 began transmitting something that defied technical explanation. Music, a repeating pattern, a faint structured hum, and measurements. Music that did not match any known behavior of interstellar plasma. At first, it seemed like a glitch. Then it returned. Then it grew, music stronger. Until finally, in its most recent transmission, something new appeared. Something NASA, music cannot classify. Once Voyager 2 crossed Neptune and drifted into the cold beyond, it approached a region scientists had theorized music about for decades, but had never directly observed. The heliopause, the outermost boundary of the sun's influence. This is where the solar wind, a constant stream of charged particles blowing outward from the sun, finally collapses under the weight of the interstellar medium. In simple terms, is the border between our cosmic backyard and everything else. Models predicted a gradual transition, a soft fade, a gentle exchange of plasma flows. But Voyager 2 didn't find something gentle. It found chaos. Pressure waves slammed into the spacecraft. Music, charged particles surged unpredictably. Magnetic fields twisted in violent, unexpected directions. Music, the density of plasma, jumped by a factor NASA did not believe possible. And for the first time in history, humanity, music, tasted the raw, unfiltered environment of interstellar space. But the most disturbing part, the transition didn't behave the same way Voyager 1 observed years earlier. The boundary was thinner, sharper, more active, almost as if something had disturbed it, shifted it, or manipulated it since the first probe crossed. That asymmetry didn't make sense. And now, after the latest transmission, scientists are reconsidering the possibility that Voyager 2 did not simply cross a border. It crossed into something's territory. Once Voyager 2 officially left the heliosphere, it entered a realm of pure interstellar plasma, material that hasn't touched the sun in billions of years. NASA assumed it would be quiet out there, a kind of cosmic emptiness. But that assumption shattered almost immediately. Voyager began detecting a hum, a constant low-frequency vibration echoing through the plasma, too steady to be random noise, too controlled to be natural turbulence. It pulsed. It rose and fell. It shifted in ways that suggested an underlying rhythm, almost like a distant engine idling in the dark. This wasn't the chaotic, unpredictable environment scientists expected. Music, it was structured, layered, almost organized, like something humming beneath the cosmic floorboards. Voyager 2 was hearing something. The more deeply it traveled into the void, the clearer that hum became. Over the years, its frequency drifted, changed, responded to unknown fluctuations. And now, inside the most recent transmission, that hum shifted dramatically, as if something in the interstellar medium had suddenly awakened, moved, or responded to Voyager's presence. In 2020, music communication with Voyager 2 was lost. Not for minutes, not for hours, but for 7 long months. NASA blamed it on a misalignment of the Canberra dish in Australia, the only antenna capable of contacting the probe. But that explanation never fully, satisfied the mission specialists. Because when contact was finally restored, the data Voyager 2 sent back was different. The magnetic field readings were altered. The plasma density had shifted unexpectedly. And even more bizarre, the spacecraft had reoriented itself slightly, correcting its antenna without NASA's commands. But here is the part that still haunts the mission team. Voyager 2 shouldn't be able to autonomously correct its orientation anymore. The systems designed for that have been degrading for decades. Yet somehow during the blackout, Voyager held its course and aimed back at Earth with almost perfect precision. And shortly after that restoration, the anomalies in the interstellar hum became more pronounced. That 7-month gap now looks less like a communication failure and more like something interfered, interrupted, or interacted with the probe. When Voyager 2 returned to full communication, scientists began noticing something their equations could not account for. The magnetic field lines around the spacecraft, weren't behaving the way the interstellar medium models predicted. Instead of flowing smoothly, they bent gradually and then sharply, almost as if the craft were moving through an invisible wake. The kind that forms behind a ship slicing through the ocean. Natural magnetic waves do not create that pattern. Plasma turbulence does, not create that pattern. But an object moving through space does. The distortions were too symmetrical, too clean, too smooth, and they lasted too long to be random. One engineer described it as like Voyager 2 passed through the exhaust of something enormous. NASA avoided that language publicly, but internally the team acknowledged the possibility that Voyager may have crossed paths with something moving through interstellar space, something capable of disturbing magnetic lines at massive scales. Only now, with the newest transmission, has that possibility become impossible to ignore? Interstellar plasma is supposed to behave like a chaotic ocean. Unpredictable, stormy, constantly changing. Music, but the plasma oscillations Voyager 2 began detecting were anything but random. They surged in perfect intervals, repeating with such precision that they resembled music, code more than turbulence. Sometimes the oscillations synchronized with Voyager's engineering transmissions. Other times, they changed frequency in response to the probe's routine pings. That should be impossible. Plasma doesn't respond to spacecraft communications like that. But something did in the latest transmission. These oscillations not only returned, they evolved, forming complex harmonics not seen in any previous dataset. At least one of these harmonics matches the rhythm Voyager 2. Music has been transmitting for decades, almost as if something had learned to echo the probe's heartbeat back at us. Voyager 2 is powered by radioactive decay. Music a steady, predictable process that decreases a little every year. But before sending the most recent transmission, engineers noticed something bizarre. A temporary increase in transmission stability and power consistency, almost as if the probe received a boost or encountered a region of reduced interference. That should be impossible. The RDGs cannot increase power output. The systems cannot become more stable with age. Yet for a brief window, Voyager behaved as if its fading heart had surged again. Some suggested it passed into a region of reduced cosmic ray interference. Others suggested a temporary alignment of magnetic fields. But the timing coincides too perfectly with the music structure patterns found in the new transmission. Something stabilized Voyager 2, whether environmental or external, just before it sent the most mysterious signal of its entire mission. When the Deep Space Network finally received the first packets of Voyager 2's new transmission, the engineers expected the usual weak carrier tones, plasma data, engineering logs, and temperature readings. But this time, music, the carrier tone wasn't weak. It was too stable, too sharp, too controlled, almost like something had helped reinforce music, the signal. Then the data stream began to show anomalies. Repeating sequences embedded inside noise timing intervals that did not match the spacecraft's standard telemetry cycle and frequency modulations that no one had ever seen from Voyager. These anomalies weren't glitches. They were intentional patterns. As the stream continued, several pulses arrived at perfectly timed intervals. Intervals that matched neither engineering routines nor scientific sampling. Something was modulating the transmission. And then NASA realized the most unsettling part. Voyager 2 wasn't the source of every pulse. Some of them came from outside the spacecraft, music from somewhere near it. Inside the transmission were gaps, intentional silences spaced to music precisely to be random noise or malfunction. These silences acted like separators, dividing the pulses into clusters. Music, almost like headers in a digital file. NASA analysts ran every compression algorithm they had, and the timing structure of these gaps resembled packet formatting, not natural plasma behavior. Even more disturbing, the gaps formed a repeating cycle exactly every 3.2 minutes. The same cycle Voyager 2 uses when transmitting engineering logs. Whatever responded to Voyager understood Voyager's timing. It behaved like it was mirroring the probe, speaking in the rhythm Voyager itself used, almost as if to say, "I see you." Scientists now believe the silences aren't empty. They're encoded pauses, waiting spaces, music, perhaps even requests. One of the first things NASA checks in any anomalous transmission is the Doppler shift, the slight change in frequency caused by movement. And when they ran that analysis, the truth hit them like a wall. Not only did some pulses come from outside the spacecraft, they were moving smoothly, moving predictably, moving in ways that matched neither dust nor rocks nor plasma waves. Something with mass, significant mass, was repositioning in Voyager 2's vicinity. It wasn't drifting music like debris. It wasn't tumbling like an asteroid. It was executing controlled, deliberate adjustments. And at one music point in the data stream, the Doppler shift changed rapidly, almost like the object performed a maneuver. That maneuver coincided with a magnetic field distortion Voyager detected in the same minute. Something moved near the music probe, and the probe recorded the wake of that movement. The deeper scientists analyzed the transmission. Music, the more correlations they uncovered. Plasma oscillations matching Voyager's telemetry patterns, magnetic distortions aligned with Doppler shifts, music signal boosts timed with thruster anomalies. Every piece of data pointed to the same terrifying conclusion. The probe was not alone. Something near Voyager 2 was interacting with its environment, responding to its transmissions, and moving with unmistakable music intention. And the closer researchers looked, the more they realized something else. These patterns have been building music for months, maybe years, hidden in the noise because no one was looking for them. The transmission, music, wasn't the beginning. It was the reveal. In the last minute of the transmission, the music's strangest sequence appeared. A set of modulations that matched Voyager's own outgoing signal almost perfectly, but with subtle differences. Music, as if the signal had been echoed back with enhancements. It wasn't a reflection. It wasn't scattering. It was a reply. A reply shaped to resemble Voyager's voice so closely that even music, NASA's software classified it as probe-like before human analysts intervened. Those final music pulses were too clean, too symmetrical, and too deliberate to be noise. And they ended with one final unmistakable silence, the same length as the header silence that preceded each cluster. A beginning, a message, and an ending, a complete structure. Something responded. When NASA compiled the engineering logs, the magnetic data, the plasma, music oscillations, the Doppler shifts, and the anomalous pulses into a single timeline, the mission team was forced, music, to confront a reality they had never prepared for. Voyager 2 didn't just send data. It sent evidence of contact, not with a planet, not with a comet, not with plasma, but with an object that moved, an object that responded, an object that communicated in structured patterns. Something advanced, music, enough to approach a 46-year-old machine traveling at 35,000 miles per hour and speak to it in its own rhythm. Something waiting in the darkness between stars. Something we did not detect until it decided to reveal itself. The transmission is no longer a mystery. It is a message. And now humanity must decide what happens next. So now the question is, music, what caused the transmission? Do we try to reach out again? Do we send another signal? Do we wait for another reply? If this discovery, music, shook you as much as it shook NASA's Deep Space Network, don't slip quietly into the night. Subscribe because what comes next could redefine our understanding of the cosmos. Like this video so that more people understand the weight of what has just happened. And tell me in the comments, do you think this transmission was a greeting, a warning, or the beginning of something far bigger than we were prepared for? I'd love to hear what you think about this, so drop a comment below. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please share this video and subscribe to help the channel grow. Every bit of support counts.